Hi, welcome to COVID homeschooling. So today we're going to talk about how you need to get started. So first you need to figure out what your state rules are, and these can be found on your state's education website. Every state has different guidelines, but most of them are pretty straightforward. Here in Missouri, they say that if you're going to pull your student out of school, they ask that you send in a letter so that way they know for their records. Our guidelines here say that you have to complete 1,000 hours of homeschooling, which sounds like a lot, but when you spread it out over 180 days, it's really not that much. So 1,000 hours of homeschooling, 600 of which have to be in core subjects. So that would be your math, language, arts, science, social studies, and 400 of which have to be in your home. So the others can come from other places. Most states will also ask that you keep some sort of record. For Missouri, that's pretty much up to the parents, but you have to keep a record so that shows that you've been doing something, and so just in case you were to ever get audited, you keep a written record of what your kid learned and some examples of their work. It's really easy, so let me show you some examples. So this is what I used to use when my kids were littler. I had the subjects and I would list all the things that we did and I'd check them off as we did them, and then if we had a day off, I just marked a big X so that way I knew that those wouldn't count in our hours. In past times, I've bought planners, but I'm not really good with sticking with them. I've also printed off planners. There's plenty of free ones and they're very pretty, but I have a tendency to not stick with it. So like there's August, we hadn't really started yet. October is pretty, or September is pretty full. In October, I think we took a lot of time off for birthdays and Halloween. November was really full. But then by December, I was not good about following this anymore. So I came up with something different, and it's fine to change in the middle of the year so long as you just keep the records, and it's really easy to just stack it all in a pile, and then at the end of the year you go through it. So what I do now is I usually would cut this apart, but it has just the subjects listed and the days of the week, and that way my child can just go through and check that they've done the things. And this is my daughter. She's not very literate yet, and so I made pictures that show her subjects. I also include on there putting your breakfast dish away, brushing your teeth. That way we make sure to get those done. And then what I've started doing in addition to that is then I keep one big lesson plan for my whole year. So we usually would do one whole unit in a month, and then it's just got all the different subjects. There's lots of different ways of keeping record. You could also just have a notebook and write what you've done that day, and then flip the page or draw a line or whatever, and then list the next day what you've done. So it's so easy to make records. And then in order to keep track of your student work, you just basically want to keep some examples. It's really easy. You just once you've done something, you just put it in a big stack, and at the end of the year you decide what's worth keeping. Or if you have their work, if you decide to use workbooks, you can just keep the workbooks and pull out some really good samples. One year we used notebooks, and so these were just things I never even cleaned out. So these were good records, and it has like his story and then different sections of this, like the things that we did in social studies, where we did different cooking and maps and stuff. So it was all just right there one year. So records are really easy to keep. It's nothing to stress out about. So there you go.